Yeah. Hey, so how are you doing?
How's it going?
Yeah. What have you been working on? I was just kind of going into some of the stuff that I've released over the last 2 weeks, the two short films. I don't know if you've seen them. Been trying to promote them as much as possible and get additional eyes on them just because, one of them is my first kind of fictional short film. And then the other is a new rendition of the documentary, which has been, as I was explaining right before you came in, it's a challenge. The original cut of that film was 47 minutes long. So getting it down to what is now a 4-minute cut was a lot of work to kind of scrape out what, in a lot of cases you feel is important to say, but still maintain the spirit of what was occurring in the original doc.
I saw the 2-minute How I Remember You.
Okay.
Is that what you're referring to?
Well, that one's actually a short story that I wrote a couple of years back, and I entered into this contest. So I was looking around at material that I could use for it and decided that one would translate the best and the quickest. Originally, I thought I only had, a short month to turn it out, and then they extended the deadline. But as it turns out, they also kind of took a recommendation and allowed us to turn in 2. So that one is, brand new. It was only words before. And when I say short story, I mean extremely short, maybe 100 words, maybe 150. And to be able to turn it into a 2-minute film was pretty cool. Kind of scripted and did a shot sheet for it. But the other one, and it's above it. So if you're on mobile, you'll see it in the bird's nest up there. It's basically, a documentary film that I used AI to create short clips of photographs, some of which are mine, some are Charles Arnold, and then some are, public domain imagery from a variety of sources.
Okay, I need to check that one out. How I Remember You was cool. It was different from anything I've seen. It's almost like a blood memory sort of feeling just watching it. Obviously, it's AI, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I read something one time that really stood out to me about how both AI generated images and also dreams, both of them sort of fail to render, for lack of a better term, digits like fingers accurately, as well as like digital readings, like a digital clock. And so when I see some AI imagery, I see 6 fingers or 4 fingers or whatever. And to watch an AI movie, it sort of felt like a dream, like almost like you've been there before. And then the music was really nice. And
thank you.
Sort of just like a phantasmagoria of, you see the couple for just a little bit of time. And it's just pure emotion. Is pretty cool.
Yeah, there are no spoken lines in it. It just has a soundtrack and then the soundscape, which, that was always the intention with that. When I wrote the story, there were no lines, but translating that material into visuals, I kind of went through a number of iterations and I kind of bounced it back and forth with AI as well. Like none of what it's hard to say, like none of it that it spit out was used or whatever, but it kind of wasn't, because I was just basically like tossing in what was originally my short story. It kicked out very rough shot sheets, most of which were very similar to what I had put in. And, it struggles when you're doing the generative stuff. There are some of those base images that I used Photoshop with. And then I used what's called Pika, which is a video generative platform, a video generation platform. And what I wanted to do with that is I did not want it to, I didn't want to like make it too perfect, because I feel like it's kind of the state of the art at this time. Most notably in that segment where he's playing the piano, the hands are, grotesque in a lot of ways. I could have photoshopped in proper hands, but I wanted to show what it could do at that point in time. It's just not, with that version of the software, intelligent enough to do, perfect hands. And like throughout 2023, is particularly the first half, that was like a constant topic, in the like generative AI art community. And a lot of people would go and Photoshop the hands to clean them up and make them more perfect. But to me, we're going to get generative AI that does perfect hands. And in the second half of the year, it definitely improved a lot. They just released a new model, their 1.0 version. And I have not run any of those generations and those prompts and those base images through it yet. But that particular segment might be interesting just to get a comparison of how it does versus what it did in, October, November when I was pushing those prompts.
It's interesting. It's a brave new world out here. This AI stuff is still confusing to me. I'm a millennial, but I'm relatively Luddite as far as millennials go. I think I have a kind of a distrust in technology. I try not to use like Apple Wallet or like face recognition stuff. I don't know, out of like a sense of principle, or I don't know what. I guess like I'm afraid of the Leviathan, but the AI stuff. I mean, a lot of powerful stuff you can do with AI. So yeah, I'm interested to look at this next film of yours.
Yeah. So, to me, I'm not a visual artist. And you know what? I see Gonzalez is in here. If you're interested in coming up, you're more than welcome. This is a very open forum. So I'll just send you an invite. And if you would like to join us on stage, you can do so. The thing that's valuable for me, and I kind of explored a lot of this early last year, like from February into March, just seeing like how I could create imagery to dial into messaging and creative work that I was doing at that point in time. So I had actually done some very rough, like pen and pencil outline drawing material, starting just over a year ago, and then was pushing it through Stable Diffusion to see how it would potentially color in those images or kind of fill in the spaces between a lot of that stuff. And it did a really great job, honestly. I didn't feel, and that was the first one that it's a short story that I put with that like audiobook compilation that I put out in April last year, but I didn't feel like the current software and tools were going to enable me with my low skill level to bring that film to life yet. Maybe this year. I do continue to work on it passively, but I'm kind of focused on some other stuff. But you can do a lot with, if you have any skill with drawing or visual arts, you can do so much with the generative like image software and things like that. Stable Diffusion, I have, 2 programs on my computer that run Stable, and I have, I guess, 3 or 4 different versions of that model on my computer as well. And it just basically allows you to explore stuff and turn the work into all kinds of different formats. For me, with articles that I write, it allows me to add visuals to the stuff and to be able to turn them into videos that are a little more dynamic, which I think gets the messaging across as well. To the other folks that have just joined in, you are more than welcome to come up on stage and hang out. This is a very open conversation. I'll pass you an invite if you would like. And then, obviously we're recording today for podcast release in the future. You can promote any of your work or workshop ideas or ask questions of the folks that are hanging out, I'm more than welcome to. So as I went through, all those different tools and was exploring, how to use it, because obviously, it's very new for most folks, including myself, it occurred to me that I could do a lot of stuff with these things that I had not been able to do in the past, which is to say that, create images that go along with either fictional work or create images that kind of dial into particular components of articles and stuff like that. And that's been super valuable. I used it very heavily on an article for Bitcoin Magazine last summer. And that video is really long. It took a lot of work to produce that video. I think it's like over 9 minutes. So there's just a ton of generative work in there. And then again, pushing it through Pika, they were very cool with me, and have been, since last year, to give me the non-watermarked version of their software, so that basically, you can just kind of be immersed in that imagery and don't necessarily see any branding or anything like that on there. And obviously, like, whenever I do stuff and put it out, I always tag them and, make note that that was the software that I used. But there's other stuff that I want to explore too. So Stable Diffusion has released a piece of video software to kind of bring the images to life. I'm exploring some of that. I run all this stuff locally, on my own machine. So sometimes it works out well, sometimes it doesn't. You're just kind of at the mercy of the black box in a lot of ways. What have you been working on?
I'm deep into my passage prize submission now. I wasn't sure if I was going to do it, and then I actually had a dream that came to me that was like right on the theme, and it was a weird dream. It was like long and vivid, and it's like not like my normal kind of dreams are like I'm late for an exam like I'm lost in a university, or it's like I'm at a meeting at work, and it's like, there's stupid bullshit. And then sometimes you get these dreams that come out of nowhere, and it's like, what the fuck? I wrote it down, kind of fit the theme, and I'm like, I've just about wrapped up doing a read through of my big novel that I've spoken with you in the past about.
Yeah.
Just like reading it out loud and like going through and like kind of one final pass of editing before I can print off some copies for family and friends to sort of beta read. But I started writing a little bit more for this passage thing, and then that took over. All my focus and energy has been on that last week or so. So excited. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's wild to explore where ideas come from. And I think dreams are, a good source of that oftentimes. I'm not sure people use it as heavily as maybe they could. For me, that kind of subconscious space is always indicating something to us, right?
100%. I am a big supporter of Carl Jung and almost everything that he did. I don't think that he got everything 100% right, but right. But I've had a waking dream, or I guess like a vision of the future. Kind of just ideas run around like when you're actually awake, and like I said, I put some of those thoughts to paper, but then this dream, it kind of like fit like a puzzle piece right on the other side of my waking dream, and so I'm putting it together, and we'll see how it turns out. But yeah, the creative process. I mean, most of what I do is like plagiarism, almost, like not plagiarism, but like, like Led Zeppelin, for example. A lot of people have pointed to a few of their early songs and said, well, hey, this is almost exactly the same song as like, there's like a black blues guitar player in Mississippi who did this song, and like Led Zeppelin did it completely different. Kind of stole a couple of the themes, though, maybe a couple of the lyrics, but completely remade it and made it their own. And that's kind of how my inspiration and ideation works a lot of times too. So, like the novel I'm writing, nakedly, I'll tell anybody it's pretty much just about it's pretty much a ripoff of The Lion King, just like put in a different setting. And I don't have shame in saying that. But then,
yeah, but you know what? Lion King is just a ripoff of Hamlet.
It's all the monomyth, really, like the hero's journey. And yeah, there's different ways to do it. But yeah, you're right. And then sometimes inspiration just flashes from the deep, and it's like it's. They say Einstein discovered the theory of relativity, and the word discover literally means it's like sitting there and you take the cover off of it. It's like a dinosaur bone that's sitting there waiting to be found, and you just happen to take the dust off of it. It's like these ideas are out there, and then they're just like suddenly made available to somebody, and it's like it comes from somewhere else. It's like it doesn't come from you. And I think dreams are kind of like that, Keith Richards of Rolling Stones said he'd always keep a notepad by his bed because he'd wake up and have ideas for songs. Like there'd just be chord progressions and this happens to me. I've played guitar for 20 years where I've written like 2 songs based on like melodies I've heard in my dreams. But Keith Richards wrote a lot. He said just trying to pull inspiration from wherever it comes. And like I said, sometimes it's just lightning from the deep. And Nietzsche writes about this. Nietzsche writes about this too, actually. It's, he says kind of the same things, and it's like, sometimes you're just overwhelmed by divine feelings. I never had a choice. Sometimes when he writes some of the things he writes or does some of the things he does, he says, I never had a choice. It was just inspiration. It came and it overpowered me.
Yeah. You have to try and capture that when you're feeling the spark.
To have an antenna that is in tune to these things, that's, it's kind of like an inborn talent. It's also something that you can kind of develop. And, the creative people, they just pull from a few different wells and they know how to stitch it together. So.
Very cool. Hey, Julianne, what are you doing? Good to see you again.
Hey, so first, because you're talking about, I think, AI art, so I just posted in the nest because I was trying to maybe redo my banner, and I was like generating AI art images, and I realized how addictive it could be because even like I put in the tweet that it could kind of be like a slot machine, or you like pull the lever and you're wondering you're going to get something better next. So
100%.
That. And then I was beta testing my blog. I beta launched my blog, and I'm just going to maybe wait a little bit till I promote it more. I mean, I do have like the link up and all, but I want to see how it looks like on the iPad too. I also joined the cohort. I don't know if you've heard of Art of Purpose, and it's like creation, publish profit cohort. It's supposed to help you like learn about X and grow. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, very cool. Always appreciate you coming in, hanging out, and talking shop a little bit. I'm glad to hear your blog is getting some traction in terms of development, even if it's not launched yet.
I would say, it is launched. It's like out there. It's like live, and I have links to it. I'm just like not like really going out of my way to like promote it right now.
Well, that's all right. It'll be there. What are you writing about on there?
Well, I did some starter posts about side hustles. I did something, Web3 is another thing. So I did post something about the metaverse, like maybe different indicators to look like what's the best metaverse to use if you're like an entrepreneur or creative. And I think I did Web3, side hustles. I just did like a placeholder post for like the spiritual thing. I think there was like one other. I did also like did the e-course review on some sort of marketing research course by Joshua Lysick too. Mm-hmm. So I had some. I mean, the way I did it, it probably put like a lot of friction to start because I wanted to like have a lot of stuff out there before launching. I wonder if I ever do like the more woman-centered blog or something else. Maybe I wouldn't maybe just be this crazy and try to have everything a certain way beforehand and just get started. but you never know. Maybe there'd be advantages and disadvantages with both ways.
Very cool. I think a couple of months ago when you came on, you were talking about some fiction writing you were doing, or maybe a book or something like that. How's that coming?
Yeah, right now I'm just waiting for my mom to finish reading the rough draft. So I think she's about halfway done. So that's interesting. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, you'll have to keep us posted with that. How are you intending to release it?
I mean, I've gone back and forth between self-publish or traditional. And then this one person does something ghost publishing. It's supposed to be the best of both worlds. So,
wait, did you say ghost publishing?
Yes.
What does that mean in this case?
He says it's like the best. I mean, Joshua Lysick does it, but
right.
You
mean ghost writing?
No, it's ghost publishing. I mean, he does ghost writing too, but he does ghost publishing. It's supposed to be like the best of both worlds. Is that maybe you still get into the Barnes and Nobles and things like that, but you have more control and keep more money. It's like the best of both worlds of self-publishing and traditional publishing. But I don't know if anyone can just like get that from him. I don't know if he wants, if he actually ghostwrites your article, or your book or not. I wonder if I had him like edit my stuff. I wonder if that would qualify. But
I'm not 100% clear on what the phrase means, to be honest with you.
He might have invented it. Who knows?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely know ghost writing, though.
And I guess, more like technical what that means within publishing, but I mean, not exactly sure about that, but I guess he was saying that it's like you get the best of both worlds of both, which that sounds nice. But
yeah, I guess so. Like in both worlds, when you say that, you mean like traditional publishing through a publisher and self-publishing through, your own channels.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm not sure. I guess I'll have to look that up because again, I know who Josh Lysick is, but I am not familiar with that phrase. So it's new to me.
Okay.
Yeah, very cool. So what else would you guys like to talk about? Kick ideas around, or what? When is the Passage Prize thing due?
End of January. I was just going to ask if you were planning to submit anything.
I'm not, because I don't. I'm a very slow writer, so
yeah.
Like I said, it took me 6 months to work on the short story that I finished up at the end of last year. I have turned it over to Double Dealer for a look. Maybe they'll run it. If they don't, I will self-publish it on Amazon with the other material. And I've done a preliminary test reading of it. Basically, hey Tuan, what's up? I've done that preliminary reading of it, just to kind of, there's a lot of really difficult words in it, in other languages. So letting them kind of, go into the microphone and then to hear how I'm messing them up, not only because probably my conjugation is wrong, but also the fact that, they're foreign words in languages that I'm not familiar with. I'm going to do the best I can with it, but I will do a final read of that probably this month and get that ready and in shape. And I've started generating some of the images and things like that that'll go along with it for promotion and everything else.
Let's go.
Hey.
Good stuff. I was just going to say, I was actually not even planning to do the passage, but when inspiration strikes, the words can pour out pretty quickly, and I take a lot more time editing and rewriting and the flow of the words just right. But when they start flowing, they flow. They just kind of pour out of me. So it's like a 7,000 word max.
Oh,
about
wow.
halfway there. Yeah.
Nice.
It feels like magic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah. Sometimes it's just like I'll go back and I'll reread what I wrote, and I was like, I just don't know where it came from. It's like, well, I don't know what I was thinking. It just kind of like came out. I'm like proud of myself. Like, oh, okay, good job.
And what's sad, if you get a hit of that inspiration, then you don't write the idea down. You think you're going to remember it, and you don't. It's gone. Poof.
I take a lot of notes. Like, my notepad on my iPhone or whatever, it's like full, and I've got like all the Google Docs for everything because my memory sucks, but I try to write things down. And the worst is when you're trying to fall asleep at night and your thoughts are racing, and I just try to write stuff down and like get it out of my head. Nietzsche writes about this too. He says, why do you write? Or somebody asks him, why do you write? And he says, because I have so many words, I have so many thoughts in my head that I have to get out. And the person's like, hold on, actually, wait a minute. It's much better. I've got it written down in my Google Docs right here, and it's right on hand. But why then do you write? Answer, well, my friend, to be quite frank, so far I have not discovered any other way of getting rid of my thoughts. And why do you want to get rid of them? Answer, why do I want to? Do I want to? I must. Enough. And that's pretty much my approach with, helps me just got to write shit down and, hope that you don't lose anything.
100%. Yeah. I did a strong, bit of kind of preliminary work for the story I'm working on now, which is the one I wanted to write, initially before I did the piece I sent to Double Dealer, but I wasn't prepared and I started doing research and thinking about stuff. So I really heavily outlined the story, and that has been a godsend in terms of writing because, like I said, I'm not a fast writer, but I intend for that to be 6,000 words. But I'm at like 1,500 right now, and I just started 2 weeks ago. So I know that sounds terrible, but it's that's pretty fast for me for fiction. Twan, what's up, man? You came up first, so if you have stuff you want to talk about or promote, let us know. What have you been writing in terms of your artwork? Twan is a painter, so I guess the writing aspect is kind of adjacent to that, but people always want to see inside the mind of an artist, so I imagine you have to kind of expand that stuff, right?
Definitely. I've definitely been writing more of the like explanations to my pieces and stuff. But David's been helping me like hella mad help on a just creative writing sense of like his whole concept for the just automatic writing or just like writing whatever comes to your mind. Sorry, it's a lot of noise in the background, but
yeah, it's all goes.
But yeah, he's been helping me a whole lot. Like I did one of his meditations over the Zoom a couple days ago. That was cool. But ever since like the hackathon and like David's meditations, the shit's been helping a whole lot actually.
David is a very good channel for idea propagation, I feel like.
Not like real talk, like I think that he's the type of person that like I would go to talk to somebody about. I would go to talk to David before I talk to somebody about my ideas. I'll say that. Not to talk about the idea, but to say like, hey, I'm getting ready to talk about something I love. I'm going to talk to David first and then go talk about the thing I love, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Gonzalo.
Been dope.
How's it going? Welcome to the Hangout. We do this every 2 weeks. I haven't seen you before, but if you're working on something or you want to promote one of your releases or anything that you have, you're more than welcome to talk.
Hey, Michael, how's it going?
Yeah, man.
Honestly, I saw the space. I saw the space that Julian is here. I've been following her for a while, and I saw that it said writing, publishing, authorship, and I said, hey, let's check it out. And so I was just listening for a bit, just to kind of get a feel for what the space is all about and whatnot. I think first of all, I'd like to say that I think it's great that you're hosting spaces like this because we don't have enough writing spaces. I do one once a week. There's another one called the Writer's Blog. That's once a week. And one more that that's like all about like, you know, the process of writing and like why you write and the therapeutic effect behind it. That's about it. Like there aren't enough spaces about like fiction and writing and all that stuff. So I'm very glad that you're doing this here. Like what do I work on? What am I working on? I like to think of myself as more of a writer. Like I focus more on stories. But I do know how to draw. Like I am also an artist. I do also draw. So I consider myself a writer who draws more than an artist who writes, you know? What were you saying?
Oh, no, I was just saying that's nice because, you know, for me, I'm not a visual artist in any serious capacity.
Well, it does take, it's hard to learn. It takes a long time and I was very lucky in the sense that I caught the bug about a year and a half before the drawing bug, before the pandemic broke out. So I was practicing like crazy. And then when the pandemic did break out, I put together a couple of things that, you know, like experience and things that I wanted to do. And I started, teaching a little drawing workshop for kids online because I had experience working with kids. They had experience teaching online. So I just like put all those things together and just started doing it for free. So what I then had was an excuse to draw every single day. Like I literally had to sit down and draw something. At first it was like 3 or 4 times a day. And then it started, you know, slowing down a bit. But so I've had that fortune to be able to practice crazy, like crazy, right? So I've gotten really good for the amount of time that I've been doing it. And like they're like, I guess 2 things that I could say I'm working on. Right now there's a book that I wrote with a friend of mine a few years ago. We're trying to get it, finish editing it. And it's got a lot of comic panels, but it's way too long for me to take on. I'm way too much of a beginner and it's way too big for me to take on by myself. So what we're trying to do is, what we're going to do is knock on some doors. We're going to try to get that published the traditional route. We're going to just be like, go to like random house. Whoever opens the door when we knock, we'll pitch it to them and see how that goes. We're trying to get finish editing it, like in these past few months, but it's a very slow process.
Very cool.
Thanks. One thing that I'm working on like more presently right now is a thing that I just started. I finally got the courage to start a drawing project of my own, all by myself, and I'm doing it actually right now. Like I've started writing a little webcomic about a little cat character who is starting his own webcomic. Not at all about me, at all, you know. And I've been having a lot of fun with it, and that's one. Like if you go to my profile, like I literally just teased a little screenshot of it like yesterday. So I'm working on it as we speak, and it's a lot of fun. That's what I've been up to.
Yeah, very cool. So this space that I've been doing every 2 weeks for the last, I don't know, a couple of months, I guess. Usually John's in here co-hosting with me, but he is in a meeting for work right now. He just messaged me back. So he's not going to be able to make it. Maybe he will in a little bit, hopefully. It kind of was birthed out of a Clubhouse group that I hung out in a couple of years back, which was about publishing, and they were basically helping new and young authors to work through the process of getting themselves published on Amazon, and then they would do these promotional events on Clubhouse and Instagram and various other outlets to drive traffic to the new release. This is different than that. Obviously, this is more shop talk than promotional in a release sense, in a kind of like release party sense. But it was always something that was kind of on my mind. I used to do these big group chats on a Sunday afternoon for a few years, once a month, and broadcast that through Twitter and YouTube and stuff. But those were more technical, and I'm just paying more attention to the publishing and writing space over the last couple of years as I've continued to release books and write, more consistently. The other thing I wanted to ask you is, have you dealt with a literary agent, and do you have any previous experience with traditional publishing?
No, this would be literally our first experience trying to get something published. Like I said, I'm not an author yet, not a published author yet, but we did take the book to a small editor. Who looked it over for us, and just see what we needed to do with it, what needed to be changed, things to correct, and we were extremely surprised and happy to find that they brought it back and said it's fine. you can. I mean, it's the story flows. They said the characters are good. There aren't any spelling errors or anything like that. But most importantly, like the story, right? And we kind of looked at each other because there were two of them who looked at this, and they're professionals in their field, and we were kind of taken aback a little bit. We were like when the meeting was over, we kind of looked at each other, almost like high fived. It was like we're like. So it's good. So, it's like pretty much good to start kind of pitching and shopping around. We were really, really happy about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And editors can definitely serve as an intermediary to literary agents. Basically, that process is a lot of work. It can take years in some cases to get the right lit agent and for them to find the right, publisher. Obviously, I would say the sooner you start, the better. There are websites that are available for you to look around to send pitches to lit agents. You have to put together a nice package for them. But if you just go on, and there's a particular term that they use. If you look up literary agent, you will find this term. It's not off the top of my head. I can't remember right now. It's not called pitch. It's query. That's what it is. It's called query. When you query a literary agent, that is kind of the process that you go through to get that conversation started so that you can basically have them as a go-between and allow them to do some of that work for you in developing a relationship with a publisher. And oftentimes they have relationships with publishers. They will take on projects that they think they can find a home for. So I would say take a look into that. I'm not traditionally published.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was literally just reposting the space, and when you're on the screen to type the message, there are no the controls go away.
Oh, right. Yeah.
and I didn't want to cancel. And so, sorry about that. So that's really cool. What was the term you said that I should look up? Literary agencies. You said.
Well, you look for the term literary agent, and you can. And okay. I would say, there's a website for querying specifically. Collections of lit agents, and oftentimes they specialize, you know what I mean? So like if it's an illustrated children's book, they're going to be, they're going to be more proper. They're going to be properly, oriented to that community, both in terms of their skill set, but also their relationships. For me, I'm not traditionally published. I would like to be with some of the stuff that I'm working on, or even if I go back and kind of rework the material that I have. So like the Exploring Our National Parks series, that one I think could be put into a collection and released through a traditional publisher. I think the Chicago 1893 book, if I kind of beefed it out a little bit more and made it either more personal or less personal, it could probably be, traditionally published. It's kind of in between. It's kind of, photojournalistic in that way. And it doesn't necessarily have like a personal narrative. And it's also perhaps not academically focused enough for that community. There's a lot of publications on the Columbian Exposition. So for me to push something out within that space, it probably needs to do something new as opposed to kind of what it does, which is catalog, my experience, getting exposure to that event topically. It could be readdressed through the lens of what the project has done over the last 5 years in becoming, a documentary and having the soundtrack and having a premiere in Chicago at a legit theater, and then developing a line of merchandise and a slew of other things. To the other folks hanging out, if you guys are interested in coming up and talking about what you're working on or promoting any of your work that you have currently, you are welcome to do that. This is a very open forum. So I would say, come and hang out if you're interested.
So, Michael, what do you like to focus on more? Like, since we're just meeting, I heard you talking about some short films that you've made. What do you do mostly, like, in terms of writing fiction and stuff like that?
So I am just getting into fiction. I released an audiobook exclusive last year that had one very short story of my own. It was, and when I say very short, I do mean that. It was like 1,200 words, which is part of the reason why I did it as an audiobook exclusive, so that I could pair it, kind of include it with a number of other short story readings that I did from Edgar Allan Poe, H.P. Lovecraft, and Frank Belknap Long. So what I did with my story and those stories is I did a straight read of them with a couple of character voices when, applicable. And then also did an audio play production for each of the readings too. So there's like sound effects and music and things like that. That are in there, and I can dig that up. Actually, I'll put it into the Jumbotron, so folks can check it out if they're interested. We'll probably be doing more with that in the future, but as it is right now, I'm working on getting my first, legit fictional short story done, and then looking at some other things in fiction, both in terms of the film channel and the writing channel. So if you look above, in the pinned tweets, I've got the first two all the way to the right are two short films that I just released for a contest, actually, that kind of wrapped up at the end of last year. One is a very short cut of the Chicago documentary, and the other is a 2-minute film that's fictional, and both of them use Stable Diffusion to generate the base imagery, and then Pika to put motion into the imagery. And then, one I did the voiceover, and then the other one is more strictly just soundtrack, which I played, the music for, composed and played the music for, and then it's soundscaping. So basically, Foley and sound effects and stuff like that to make it immersive, so that it actually has some kind of emotional pull as opposed to just a visual experience with some music. So I would like to do more of that, and we'll see how it goes.
That's awesome. I just bookmarked them all because I know that the space. I guess you're recording it locally, but I know the space isn't recorded, so I just bookmarked them so that I can check them out a little bit later on. Yeah, definitely interested in that. It's very cool. Awesome, man.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm very happy for you to be working on the illustrated stuff. I wish that I had more skill in that side. If I spent more time with it, maybe in a good number of years would be. But
let me tell you something about that. How old are you today?
Old enough to not tell my age.
Okay, because I've wanted to do something like this. I've been wishing I could draw since I was 8 years old. 9 years old. I actually used to read Calvin and Hobbes was my favorite book growing up, my favorite comic strip growing up. And I actually got to the point where I wanted to do like a little, what I now know is called fan fiction. I wanted to do like my own little book, my own little comic strips. But because, quote, I couldn't draw, I decided to try to trace parts like characters in certain positions, in certain poses from other panels from the other books to try to piece together my own. But I mean, yeah, I guess it was a little ingenious, but the point is it never occurred to me to just kind of, try to draw them and then get it wrong a bunch of times and then get better. and then end up knowing how to draw. Because the knowing how to draw thing, like people, for some reason, there's this idea, we have this idea that it's talent and not a skill. Personally, I don't believe don't believe in talent. And I just never did it. And I went through most of my young and adult life simply not knowing how to draw. I talked a bit before about how I got bit by the bug. One day I decided that I wanted to learn because I've been learning a lot of things over the years from YouTube, like tutorials and like how to edit this, how to do that in Photoshop or whatever, a lot of stuff, different stuff. So one day I said, it'd be really cool to learn how to draw. And I thought, like, well, where would I study something like that? Like, where would I even look? And then it hit me, like, just out of nowhere, like, well, duh. There's got to be, I'm sure there must be tutorials on YouTube, right? There's got to be tutorials about this. Absolutely. I've learned a bunch of other stuff. And lo and behold, there were thousands of tutorials on YouTube. And I just dove right in. I went deep. Now, I was 38 years old when I did that. And today I can say that I know how to draw. I'm 44. It didn't take that long. It didn't, although admittedly, I did, like also mentioned, I did go through a period where I just drew multiple times a day, right? Mm-hmm. But that's what it takes. And if you have that, that extra time, like maybe like set aside an hour a day and take some classes and get some courses, you can do it. In like 5 years, you can start calling yourself an artist.
Yeah. Congrats. That's, I would say that's kind of in the same trajectory that I had with music when I was a kid. I spent like 15 years very seriously on music, playing and recording and teaching. I taught lessons for a really long time as well. While I do know that practice will develop skill, there is also a talent aspect to things. Some people just take to a particular outlet very rapidly, either through passion or capability. There are some people who are just oriented that way, that they're able to grip a guitar, really well, or maybe their brain is wired to be able to see an image and replicate it with their hands or through whatever medium, So I think that it's a little bit of both, but definitely, if you practice at something, if you really spend the time investing in the skill, then, you're going to go farther than somebody who just has an innate talent and doesn't, a little bit of both.
Absolutely agree. And not just that, like it's just getting over that mental block, that mental hurdle that somehow drawing is a superpower you're either born with or not. That's and I never would have said that out loud to someone, but now that I've learned, or that I am learning, you never stop learning how to draw. But now that I can say I can draw, like looking back, I realized that is exactly what I used to think. That was exactly because I always looked at, I wanted to do my little comics, and I never thought to just learn how to do it or try it out. Just try it. And when like in my 20s, I had a friend. I still have a friend, this friend. But I met this friend who could draw really well. He showed me these comic panels that he was making. And like the only thing that I could think of was, I wish I could draw like that. It never occurred to me to start learning how to draw even then. And until I finally started. So, well, I guess from that we can also learn it's never too late. But we need to get out of our heads that it's a magic superpower. It's a skill, like any other. Anyway, that's my rant. That's the end of my rant on and the same goes for writing, because you said also that you just got into fiction writing. Mm-hmm. It's the exact same thing too. It's just a matter of learning a little bit of the theory and practicing a lot and getting feedback. It's just like any drawing or any other skill, man.
Yeah, I did a lot of reading on short story composition and creation, looking at like modeling and outlining pretty heavily last year before I started to actually do that work for those pieces. Because there are arcs, there are traditional arcs and narrative flows that kind of work that way. And I think it's valuable if you do a little bit of studying in advance so that you can rapidly deploy your thoughts into the shape of something that people will understand or connect with in that way. But hey, if there are other folks that are hanging out and want to talk, let me know rapidly. Otherwise, I've been here for an hour and we'll probably call it pretty soon here. So raise your hand if you'd like. Otherwise, do you have any additional thoughts, Gonzalo? Oh, wait, hold on just a second. We've got a hand raised. Hey, what's up, man? How's it been?
Good. How's it going, man?
Yeah, good. Just hanging out. What have you been up to?
Just making art. I've dove into the Solana world.
Very cool.
And there's a lot of zero code tools that they have.
Coding is writing too.
Yeah, coding is writing. A lot of solutions that could help in building a project and different art projects. I'm working on a project right now called Leonardo's Walls, and it goes on. The artwork is based on like the theory that Leonardo da Vinci had around staring at walls to come up with and imagine battle scenes and beautiful things within the staring at the wall. So he advises that artists do that to practice, to draw, to learn how to draw. So when I heard you guys talking about learning how to draw, I'm like, man, I should take a drawing class. But yeah, I'm just here kind of creating, listening. Hadn't seen you in a while, Michael. We hadn't spoke, so thought I'd come up and say what's up.
Yeah, for sure. You working on any writing?
Yeah, constantly. I'm writing a lot. I'm writing a lot of copy for some of this artwork. The first one is called Ephemeral Union. That's the piece, and then I did all the write-up for that. So I've been writing like how to describe the work. So I've been doing a lot of writing in that sense.
Yeah, I feel like that's a very important aspect of visual art, is to utilize a little bit of editorial to convey what you mean without necessarily totally giving it away. I could be wrong.
No, I think you're right. I think you're right. Because one of the pieces is called Mystery Unveiled, and in the write-up I wrote, like, I'm looking at it right now. I wrote, the androgynous face born from the wall intrigues and embodies nature's essence through Leonardo's method. Just that simple sentence like that, and you're looking at the piece, so it helps to like
to get the words out.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah. Well, hey, we've been here for an hour. We will be back in 2 weeks. So January 24th, I believe, I've got a guest, featured guest, who will be joining us that week, and she'll be talking about some of her material. I don't want to give it all away. Let her do the work when she's here. But obviously, in advance of that, I'll be putting up a post on Twitter here and kind of sharing and promoting what we'll be doing. Then she released a book at the tail end of last year, and it turns out, I only met her last year, but it turns out she's actually got a bunch of like short fiction and other books out on Amazon as well. So, I'll be prompting her to put those in there, and everybody is welcome to come back and jump on stage and chat with her about her process and her work, and looking forward to it. So yeah. All right. Well, thanks for hanging out, and we will talk again before too long.